Your statement says the minimum payment is $89. You pay it, the app says paid, and the little red dot disappears. That's the whole interaction. 12 seconds, and you feel like a responsible adult. You close the app before it even loads the next screen because there's nothing else you need to see. The bill is handled. That's how it feels anyway. Quick note, not financial advice, just how the math actually works once you follow it all the way through. Here's the number nobody shows you in those 12 seconds. A $5,000 balance at a fairly normal 22% interest rate. Paid at the minimum, takes about 11 years to clear. Not 11 months. 11 years, and by the time it's gone, you'll have paid roughly $8,678 in interest on top of the original $5,000. You didn't buy $5,000 worth of stuff. You bought $13,678 worth of stuff, spread out so thin you never felt the second half of it. Picture how a balance like that actually starts. It's rarely one reckless purchase. It's a used couch when the old one finally gave out, a car repair that couldn't wait, 2 months where the paycheck landed a few days after rent was due and the card covered the gap. None of it feels like a decision at the time. It feels like the only option in the room. 11 years later, it's still the only thing left explaining where the money went. Here's why. Most minimum payments are set at around 2 to 3% of your balance, or a flat $25 to $35, whichever is bigger. On that $5,000 balance, the $100 minimum sounds like progress. It isn't. About $92 of it goes straight to interest. $8 actually reduces what you owe. You're not climbing out of the hole, you're mostly just paying rent on it. And here's the part that makes it worse than even that 11-year number suggests. Minimums are usually a percentage of your current balance, not a fixed amount. So as the balance slowly drops, the required minimum drops with it. The $100 a month estimate above is really just the starting point. The payment keeps shrinking the whole way down, which means the real timeline for a lot of cardholders stretches out even longer than 11 years, not shorter. The debt doesn't get easier to escape over time. It gets slower to escape, on purpose built into the formula. It's a strange kind of progress. Every year the balance drops a little, the required minimum drops right along with it, and the whole thing feels stable. Nothing's getting worse, the number on the app keeps ticking down, so it's easy to assume it's on track. It's on track, just not towards zero anytime soon. It's on track toward a decade or more of small, shrinking, manageable-looking payments that add up to something anything but small. Now, technically, this isn't hidden. By law, your statement has to include a box that tells you exactly how long minimum payments will take and what they'll cost you in total. It's called the minimum payment warning, and card companies are required to print it. So if you want to be precise about it, they don't hide it. They disclose it in 6-point font, in a box near the bottom of a page you've never once read all the way through. On a bill you open to check one number, how much is due, and then close. The information is legally there. It was never designed to be seen. Ask around and you'll find almost nobody who can tell you what that box on their own statement says. Not the number, not the time frame, not even that the box exists. People can tell you their interest rate off the top of their head sometimes if they've shopped for a card recently. Almost nobody can tell you the number that actually matters, the one showing exactly how many years their current habit will take. It's not because people don't care, it's because the number was built to survive being technically disclosed and practically invisible at the same time. Compare that to the number they do want you to see. Right at the top, bold, easy, minimum payment due, $89. That's the number your eye lands on. That's the number that decides what you do next. The 11-year, $8,678 number is sitting 4 inches below it, in a font size built for footnotes, and most people go their entire lives without reading it once. Let's make it concrete with a smaller number too, because this isn't just a big balance problem. A $1,000 balance at 18% interest, paid at the minimum, takes about 2 years and 8 months to clear, and costs an extra $263 in interest. On a balance that's small, that's not catastrophic. It's just a preview of the pattern. The pattern is what scales badly, not the starting number, and balances rarely stay put at $1,000 or $5,000 because the card is still active the whole time you're paying the minimum on it. A birthday gift here, a night out there, nothing dramatic, just normal spending on a card that still has room. 18 months later, the balance is higher than when you started. The minimum payment has crept up along with it, and it genuinely feels like you've been paying this thing off responsibly the entire time. On paper, you have been. In practice, the finish line moved twice as fast as you walk toward it. Here's the part that actually changes the outcome, and it's not complicated. On that same $5,000 balance, if you pay a steady $200 a month instead of just letting the minimum ride, the payoff time drops from around 137 months to 34 months. 11 years becomes under 3. The total interest drops from $8,678 to about $1,750. Same debt, same starting point. The only thing that moved was the size of the number you decided to type into the payment field. Most people don't do this because $200 feels like a bigger commitment than $89 in the moment on that one bill. But the $89 version isn't actually cheaper. It's the same debt wearing a smaller monthly costume, with the difference quietly added onto years 4 through 11 where you're not thinking about it anymore. The bank isn't lying to you about the $89. They're just letting you assume smaller monthly number means cheaper, when what it actually means is longer, and longer is where the real cost lives. Think about it from the other side for a second. 2 people carry the exact same $5,000 balance at the exact same rate. One pays $89 a month without ever looking past the top line of the statement. The other pays $200 because at some point they did the math once and never wanted to do it again. 9 years from now, one of them owes nothing and paid about $1,750 to get there. The other still owes real money, has paid more in interest already than the other person's entire total cost, and has years left to go. Same bank, same card, same starting balance. The only variable that moved was one decision, made once and then left alone. There's a reason this setup works so well on credit card issuers' side of the ledger. Interest is how they make money. Pay your statement in full every month and you cost them almost nothing. Pay the minimum for 11 years and you're quietly one of their best customers, the whole time believing you're just keeping up. Nobody at the bank is rooting for you to pay it off fast. The minimum payment isn't a mistake in the system. It's the system working exactly as designed, and you happen to be the part of the design that generates the return. It's not a conspiracy, it's just the business model. Swipe fees from merchants come in either way. Interest only comes in from balances that carry, which means the people paying close to the minimum for years at a stretch are doing most of the funding. So what actually breaks this? Not some drastic overhaul, not cutting up every card you own. Just this: whatever your minimum payment is this month, add a fixed amount on top of it, every month, no matter what the shrinking minimum says. Even an extra $50 changes the shape of the whole 11-year curve dramatically because you're finally attacking the balance faster than the interest can rebuild it. The minimum payment is designed to keep pace with your debt. Anything above it is the only thing that actually outruns it. It doesn't have to be a hero number either. You don't need to suddenly find an extra $500 a month you don't have. Even setting the payment to a fixed amount instead of whatever the minimum happens to be this month changes the trajectory, because a fixed payment doesn't shrink when the balance does. It keeps attacking the debt at full strength the entire way down, instead of easing off right when it should be closing in. If you're carrying a balance right now, this is worth 5 minutes. Pull up your real statement, find that little box near the bottom, the one in 6-point font, and read the actual number next to your actual balance, not the $89. The other one, years, total interest, the real cost of doing nothing differently. Most people have never looked at their own number even once. It's sitting right there, legally required to be printed, and it's probably the most expensive sentence in your entire financial life that you've never actually read. The $500 in the title isn't random either. A lot of cards set their flat fee minimum somewhere in that neighborhood once a balance gets large enough, and that number does the same psychological job at every balance size. It makes a genuinely enormous multi-year debt feel like a small, forgettable monthly errand. That's the actual trap, not the interest rate, not the fine print, the gap between how small the ask feels every month and how large the debt actually stays underneath it. 2 different balances, 2 different lives, and the exact same gap sitting underneath both of them. The gap doesn't care how much the balance is. It just quietly keeps growing until somebody decides to close it on purpose. None of this means credit cards are the enemy. Paid in full, they're one of the most useful tools in personal finance. Rewards, credit history, fraud protection, none of that goes away. The trap only opens up the moment a balance starts carrying month to month, and the minimum becomes the default instead of the floor. That's the one habit worth catching before it becomes an 11-year habit by accident. It's also worth saying plainly, carrying a balance sometimes isn't a character flaw. It's just what happened during a hard stretch. The point of any of this isn't guilt. It's noticing early enough that the default setting, pay the minimum, don't look at the box, is quietly the most expensive option on the entire statement, and it's the one that requires no decision at all to end up in. If this is the kind of thing you think about, stick around. That's basically what this channel is. And before you go, check your own statement for that box, and tell me in the comments what number you actually found. I read everyone.